Great.
All right, so we're recording, so just make sure you don't say anything you can't take back because it'll live on forever.
I
All
said
right.
this morning, is this a flashback to COVID when we all had our kids at home and dogs? I was like, someone get the dog and put her away because I don't want to accidentally yell a profanity while we're on Zoom.
For those that don't know, Jen was on a regional leadership call and was
With
not on
all the
mute.
new investors that I hadn't met, like the most important people on this call.
And she told her dog to shut up very loudly on that call. All right, guys, let's jump in. So for those that I haven't met or don't know who I am, I know we have some guests on here as well, but I'm the operating partner of 5 different Keller Williams office. I know this is our once a month all office meeting. When I made the call yesterday on the plane on the flight back from Anaheim, I assumed it would look a lot worse right now than it does. And it's still easier to keep everybody off the roads. So it is coming. It's just a matter of time. All right. So there's a handful of things that we're going to touch on today. This is going to be from Gary Keller's vision speech. Essentially, he has a ton of research and a ton of data, both from 2022 and also looking into some projections with 2023. So we're gonna walk through this. This is going to be an economic partially an economic conversation, and then Jen Briggs, who's our GM, is going to walk through some database stuff that will allow you guys to build deeper relationships with people on a more consistent basis, which is, as we move into a shifted market, going to be critically important to be top of mind and front and center. So I always say this, and sometimes people feel bad if you're able to put a camera on. I love seeing faces. I love seeing reactions, particularly when I say something wrong and then everybody's like, "Whoa, that went sideways." I might do that today. I'm gonna keep it that way. So, Jen, did I miss anything? Is there anything that?
I don't think so. I mean, I see some people on here from Family Reunion. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end or throughout this. I would encourage you guys to jump in, Jake, unless you disagree, but to jump in if you have things to share or put questions in the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on that. We hope to, Jake said this in his post, continue to elevate the conversation. Jake's got a lot of insight here, and I know some of you that were there have some insights to bring to the table as well. So we look forward to diving in. Yeah?
Cool.
All right.
Bethany's helping us with this as well, and so all the slides that you're going to see, she's going to put those in the chat. So if what we're going through, if you want to download, take it for whatever it's worth. I think everybody should download them, and I think everybody should really dig into the meaning behind the numbers. I'm confident that the consumer right now isn't at a shortage of information. What they're at a shortage of is the context around what that information means to them based on how they're trying to make decisions. And part of the goal today is to give the numbers and to talk about the numbers, but also how are we communicating this to the clients, and are we communicating it in a way that actually makes sense and is accurate? Because mortgage rates, everybody thinks they're super high, and we're going to walk through this. The reality is, those that have been in business for a while, is that the truth? They're not that high. They are based on compared to 3%, which Gary said, I don't think we'll ever get back to 3% in our lifetime. So if your clients are waiting for that, tell them to never buy anything. All right, Bethany, let's jump into the slide deck here. And just a couple of things just on the front end that are going to be things that are coming up.
1 second, Jake, we're getting word. Oh, I think Bethany's trying to manage the Zoom link and this, because I think we're getting flooded with people trying to join and they're having a bit of a challenge hopping in. So just bear with us as we manage both sides of the tech here.
Got it. Thank you, Bethany. I know there's a tell me something good. Let's just get like 2 things. I like to start meetings with something good. So who's got something good to share?
I can pop on. We
right,
have Pam Howard, she is from Remax. She joined our team back in December and we were helping her out for 2 months as she transitioned. And today is her first week. So welcome her to KW and
Welcome,
to
Pam.
the team.
Awesome to have you. You're on a good team too. Jen's pretty good. She's all right. All right, Bethany, how are we doing on the slides? Sorry, I'm putting the pressure on you.
If we need to, I might be able to share from my computer too. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I was gonna say, if you co-add me, I can add people.
All right, I'm gonna get started on the first. We're just gonna move past that. So this is gonna be contextual. You're not gonna have a visual on this one until we get that up on the screen. So let's just go straight to the first slide on home sales, if we're able to. All right. So all of these charts, I would highly encourage you to bring the ones that you think pertain to your clients, and whatever obviously the appointment or the meeting is about, is to bring some context to them. So on here, you can basically just see, we know what the last couple of years has been like. So this is the amount of annual home sales across the US, 5.6, 6.1 in 2021. And last year we ended at about 5 million. Gary, based on NAR statistics, suggested that we're going to be at about 4.2 this year. And this is all, understand that it's very tough to project at this time based in the market, because small things can have big impacts on people choosing to buy or sell. So, but based on what they're saying, it's about 4.2, which would put us back on this chart, which would put us back to that 08, 09 range, which we're in a completely different market. 08, 09, what was the listing inventory on the marketplace in 08 and 09? It was super high. So we are in a different market, and it's different, but it also is. Gary said the opportunities might be less, but that doesn't mean that the opportunity for you is less. We're going to talk about the necessity of having to probably do more work to get the same amount of business. And it's very easy to shed a negative light on that. I don't think that's the perspective. I think the perspective is we get to control the actions that we take every day that will allow us to take advantage of the market that we're in. Because typically when you take market share in a down market, you don't give it back up. So, all right, next slide. Home prices. Again, none of this is super shocking. The trend line there just is a basic indication of an average appreciation of 4%. Okay, so we're a little bit above that. They're projecting it to drop a little bit in 2023, and I don't think it's going to be because I think the main factor is going to hover around affordability. I don't think it's going to be based on people not wanting to buy. It's going to be based on just an inability for the whole market, from first-time home buyers all the way up to the top, to be able to continue that same trajectory of price increases. Okay. I think in general, appreciation is simply slowing. I don't think we're seeing prices drop. I just think the appreciation is slowing. This chart would tell you differently, but it's pretty steady. Okay. All right. Monthly. The only thing that I want you guys to look at on this is basically the gap between last year and this year in the average home prices is just tightening. And again, it goes back to just the slowing of appreciation. It's not 12% anymore. Maybe it's going to be 2% or 3%, or maybe it may be flat. I'm very transparent when I understand projections are just that, but the leading indicators, I'm going to take the leading indicators to make decisions on how I actually want to operate my business, even if it might show up differently.
Can I just put a caveat in there, Jake?
Yeah, go ahead.
That you guys, these are on the national level. So when you're looking at these average home prices or looking at any of these slides, make sure that you take that not necessarily with a grain of salt, because projections or at the rate of growth, they're in line. But one of the things on the past slide was the nation was up about 12.1%. But when you look at Minnesota or even the Twin Cities, it was closer to 7%. So just always remember that you should really hone in on your local market and understanding that data for your area.
Absolutely. We're a little bit more isolated from the big swings or the big fluctuations in prices compared to the coasts typically. But it's something to pay attention to for sure. All right, next one. This one's interesting. It's just, again, these are all based on just prospective annual appreciation. You can look at different, they basically just took different periods of time. The clients, this would be good for them to see, because if they've been in their home for the past 4 years, they've done okay. This isn't something to be concerned about. It's just the natural kind of fluctuations and swings that the market has to take to make sure that there's correct inflation is in check and all of that stuff. Okay. So the next one is, it kind of feels weird to talk about units being down almost 20%. You know, their projection is almost 20%. You might be bummed on that first slide. This slide tells us a little bit different story. This slide basically tells us we're projecting the third best year in total sales volume nationwide. Which, what do you guys get paid on? What do we get paid on as agents?
Volume.
The volume. So the revenue, the GCI is still a big opportunity. There's going to be less deals that make up that number. So that just, I always suggest when people are making their business goals or making their business plans, to base their activities and their strategies off of units versus volume, because do we get to control the volume? I'll answer that question. We don't get to control the volume. We do get to control a little bit more, or our activities can be a little bit more in alignment with units than volume, because you could get a $4 million listing and you didn't do anything differently. But units will typically tie closer to your strategies and your actions than volume will. Okay. Next one. This one we're going to have a little bit of a conversation around, because when we're having conversations with our clients, is anybody having people saying, I'm waiting for the mortgage rates to go down, or they're still too high? Is anybody hearing that conversation? Okay.
Bad time to buy. That's what I heard.
Say that again, Ben.
Somebody told me that it's a bad time to buy, and she kind of cut me off at that, but she was obviously referencing interest rates.
Sure. I appreciate you sharing that, Ben. Is that true to them in their own mind? That is absolutely in their mind, the reality of the situation. This is where I say, we may not all love all this data, but if we're representing ourselves as advocates for our clients, isn't it necessary that we actually give people a real check on the reality of the situation? So when you put this up there, for anybody that was looking over the past 3 years, yep, Gary's told a story. He said he was working with a client for 3 years because they didn't want to buy because the rates, they were waiting for the rates to go down. And what happened over that 3-year period is there was massive appreciation, and the mortgage rates didn't fluctuate much. Think about the amount of opportunity that was lost by them waiting for the mortgage rate on simply just trying to time it differently. They lost out on all of the appreciation over that time. And we're going to talk a little bit about how long buyers expect to be in a house and how long they actually are, their actual tenure in a house. And there's a discrepancy there. Over time, it doesn't even matter what the rate is. Over time, you're going to win through appreciation, regardless of the rate. So if they buy now, and let's just say it is 6%, if they buy now, if it goes down, they can refinance. If it goes up, they're net ahead. And if they choose to continue to rent, it doesn't really matter what the rates are doing, because they're just going to be losing opportunity with time on property with appreciation. So when we're sitting down with our clients, I think it's really important to say, okay, how long are you willing to wait? And what does that actually look like? If we take an annual average of 4%, let's be careful of not saying what the market is exactly going to do either, because that could put us at risk. But if we could simply just write down a couple of scenarios of, okay, if you're going to stay in your house for 10 years, we take an annual appreciation of 4%. Does the rate matter as much? Because there's a big difference. You get a lot of other benefits through home ownership than you do with renting, not just what am I paying and what's the appreciation. You get tax write-offs, you get other benefits that come along with that. Any thoughts, any questions on this?
Jake, it's Donovan DeMarais. How are you?
Good, good.
Hey, I did an analysis last week with our mortgage partner, one of our mortgage partners, looking at the rate 1 year ago at 3.85 versus today at 5.875, using the same applicant, same credit score. I did it based on my wife and I scenario. And the fascinating thing was we did an example based on a $500,000 property. So a year ago to a year and a half ago, for that $500,000 property, we had to pay $550. We would have had to have no inspection, you had to guarantee the appraisal. If you look today, I did it based on purchasing a property today at $485. You get to do the inspection, get to do the appraisal. But here's the interesting thing about the math. People want to know, well, it's more bad time or it's more expensive to buy. You actually, with that $75,000 differential based on 20% down, you're putting $13,000 less in down payment on today's house versus the house a year ago, year and a half ago. That $13,000 on the PI, principal interest payment, winds up carrying it for almost 6 years. So people, and then you have lower homeowners insurance, you're going to have other things as well. And then of course, appreciation, like you just said, is working for you. But when you do that analysis, you ask people like, well, do you think rates may get better in the next 5 years? Let's say they did and they stayed flat. Today, you get all the benefit of actually being able to negotiate with the seller. You get to do all your inspections. There's concessions to be made, you can get concessions, and oh, the house still has to appraise, and that's on the seller's shoulders again and not yours. So when you look at it case by case, if people are really payment focused, it actually, what you're winding up dollar for dollar for up to 5 years using that $13,000 savings to offset the increase in payment based on the rate change from a year ago to today.
That, Donovan, that's super well said. I appreciate you sharing that. This is where I try to hold back. I'm not frustrated, but I think it's our job when I see people not really understand the whole economic picture and they're guiding their clients. That's a frustration, and that's why I wanted to jump into this conversation right away, because we really need to break down options, not to try and sell people into doing something, because the reality is we don't get to allow people or tell people what to do. But we're not doing our job if we're not giving them a very clear, accurate picture of both short-term and long-term risks, rewards, and benefits, and maybe not having great benefits. I'm not trying to tell people what to do. I think the reality of the situation is we got to give them an accurate picture to make a good decision off of. Versus what Ben said, it was like, well, it's not a good time to buy. The last thing we want to do is go into that conversation with an argument. But there are questions that you can have prepared with regards to your conversations that you're having, just saying, hey, I'm not looking to try and get you to buy, or I'm not looking to get you to sell, but can I share some information that might just help you in your decision-making process? And let's be honest, if they just don't want to talk, they don't want to talk. But these slides take the sales pitch out of what you're doing and makes you more of an advocate and an advisor than you trying to. They assume you're trying to get them to buy. They assume that you're trying to get them to sell. As soon as you start advising based on data, you're in a much better spot to actually be an advocate for them and build a relationship versus just telling them they should. It's a great time to buy. It's a great time to buy based on what? We don't know those people's circumstances. So be careful of saying things that may not be a great time to buy for some people, but absolutely would be for other people that might be assuming it's not. This just provides context that's non-judgmental. It's non-threatening. It is what it is. Okay. All right, affordability. This one is something that most of us on this call have not experienced. We haven't seen this affordability level for most of the people on the call. So this is also why people are feeling a pinch or saying it's not a good time to buy, because everything has, food's gone up, gas has gone up. So they're feeling pinches in other areas. And basically what this chart is saying is 24% of their income goes to principal and interest. So our affordability is based on principal and interest, not interest, insurance, or I'm sorry, not insurance, escrow, all of the other stuff. This is just P&I. So, and that number is actually higher for first-time home buyers. Okay, pay attention to that, because the first-time home buyers is, he didn't give a number, but it's likely into the low 30s. There's life decisions that they have to make based on that if they want to buy now. And for everybody that was down at family reunion, Gary was on a little bit of a rant with regards to buying $25 drinks, saying I can't afford a house, but they're out buying $25 drinks. You know, it's just really, people have to make decisions, and some people will make those decisions, seeing what the opportunity is with regards to building their wealth through real estate, and others won't want to change their lifestyle. There's no judgment on that. It's just a decision that each individual has to make. Okay. Affordability and perspective. This, I don't think we have to do anything with this, and it's tough. It's a little tough to read, but this is just basically looking at inflation in different areas of the economy. So at the very top, hospital services is number one. And then we have college tuition, college, books, materials, medical care, which you can see the ones that have gone up the most. And housing is part of that. It's kind of right in the middle. But you guys, we can go buy a lot of TVs right now. Their prices, they're pretty much on sale. So it was a joke. You guys can smile. It's okay. So this is just good for you to understand where certain things are based on inflation, and not everything is up in prices. That's basically the context of that slide. Okay. Sides. Let's see here. Do I got that? Oh, another one. Okay. There's two of these for you guys. These are very, very good things to share with clients. Make sure you dig into this and make sure you understand it. But basically, I'm sure everybody just went to the house column on here, is my assumption. So basically what this is showing is based on 1989, and then there's one from 2000, because 89 is a super long time ago, but 89 versus 2022, when you take in inflation into account. In 1989, average price 94,000, average mortgage payment based on those interest rates at that time is 678. Okay, you take inflation into account, and you can go down to 2022. You see price and you see mortgage. What do sellers care about? Sellers care about the price of their home. What do buyers care about?
How much they're going to be paying.
Mortgage.
They think they care about price, but the reality is they care about what they're going to be paying monthly. So the sellers win in this scenario, because look at the price points and look at the increase. The buyers actually are in good shape too. It's only 2.81% up. So this is, again, when we look at things with a very, very logical and non-judgmental perspective, we can help people make good decisions. The challenge becomes, over the past few years, the real challenge, people have become wealthy in a very short period of time, which is unrealistic to expect. Well, I don't care if it's the stock market. Building wealth is a long-term game. Short-term wealth, you can hit the upswings, but you're also taking more risks trying to increase your wealth just in the short term. You look at I've read a lot of books with regards to wealth. All of them share the same sentiment around it takes time. And you use your money to help build wealth. It's not your income. So let's make sure we're not intertwining our income with our wealth, because they're two very different numbers. Focus more on your net worth than you do on your net income. All right, Bethany, let's go to the
Jake?
next one. Yep.
Jake, it's Kim Gild.
Kim.
Quick question for you. So is the price, if you go back a slide in 1989,
Yep.
that price, is that being adjusted by 4% appreciation year over year to get to the 2022?
I think they have the data on the actual appreciation of what it has been, not the average 4%.
Got it. Okay.
That's how I interpreted it when it was being presented. I don't know if anybody else heard anything different, but that they have enough data to pull what the actual appreciation has been.
I suppose, yeah, that would make sense. Okay, thanks.
Which it would take into account again. Well, that actually is true, because now I'm just going back to that appreciation chart that we had, that was at 387 last year. So, good question. All right, so we go to the next one, which is based on 2000. You're basically looking at a little bit different numbers with regards to the mortgage payment. It's a little bit higher than it was from 89, but relatively speaking, a lot of other things have gone up. The interesting one on this one is the wages haven't kept pace with the increased cost of living on mortgages. Which what does that reflect? It reflects the affordability. That's where we're starting to see that pinch, because the hourly wages or what people are getting paid just isn't in alignment with the price points of homes. So again, it's easy to try and use all of this stuff of the benefits of purchasing. Sometimes it counters, and that's okay. But they need the information to make those decisions. That's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish today. All right, next one. This next one's super fun, guys. It's super fun. Average sides per agent, 6.3. You can see 2000 to 2007, NAR added 550,000 agents. It's a lot. And look what happened to the sides, 13.5 to 7.5 over that time period. Now, I think it can be a little bit construed, because 2007 was really when everything started hitting hard on the change in the marketplace. So the sales were down, and there was still a lot of agents. And then 2008 to 2012, they shedded. That's when it got tough. They shedded through almost 330,000 agents. You notice the sides per agent went up. Adam, sides per agent essentially is it's transactions per agent, closed units per agent. So from 13 to essentially where we are now, we added another 580,000. So this is again where we can look at this chart in a couple of different ways, just saying, well, there's way too many agents. There's just not enough properties to sell. The reality is the opportunities are going to the people that are doing the right things day in and day out. I get flack sometimes around accountability and being very consistent and showing up every day, regardless of how you feel, to go do the work that's required. Understand that I'm going to continue that journey, because I will not, one of my commitments will be not to love you out of the business. I'm not going to tell you everything's great if you're not showing up doing the work, because I don't want you to be in that position. So then it's a matter of finding a strategy that aligns with things that you're willing to do consistently. Everybody on this call, you have unlimited opportunity. You really do. It just depends on what you're willing to do to go get it. So 6.3, we've seen, I don't have the chart, but when the market goes up, the agent increase tails it. So when the market starts to go down, there's actually more agents that stay in the business a little bit longer, and then in a period of time, the agent count eventually drops off when it gets tough for too long. So we can see that.
And Jake, if
So-
you were to look at, like, if we were to predict what this next, if we can see that we add agents and then we shed agents and increase sides per agent, our next cycle is going to be that we're going to shed agents, and those that stay in the business are going to add sides to their business or more closed units. This is what we talk about when we say, if you push forward when everybody else is pulling back, you'll take market share. One thing Gary said is that those that lose market share in this kind of market, it's very hard to get back, but those that gain market share, it's very hard to lose it. So this is an opportunity. They talked a lot about having that mindset of seeing change as an opportunity, because 99% of people don't see it that way, or change as a strategy, because 99% of people don't see it that way.
Great point, Jen. Too many people see change as a threat when it actually is your opportunity to make some changes. And I don't love change either, guys. I'm with you. I'm just my thought around not actually adapting is, my fear of not adapting is bigger than my dislike of the change itself. So it is a much more of a people push back. It's interesting when you talk to different people. I have some people that are, yeah, heck yeah, I love this opportunity, and then you have other people that just say you're just kind of trying to put something positive on something that's changing. Well, what's the alternative? To ignore it? I'm not interested in ignoring it either. So you may look at me as like, yeah, every change is an opportunity. And some of you might not be in the headspace to take that in as positively. And I'm empathetic to that. But I think there's a conversation that we could have to give you an opportunity to shift the focus of are you putting it into everything that could fall apart, or are you putting it into actually what you can control, which is how you show up every day. Okay. All right. So just like the other one, we had units projected to be down, volume expected to be up. Same thing obviously coincides with agent per side, or agent volume per agent. We're looking at projecting the second highest volume per agent in the history of the market. It's just, you just got to find the business. You've got to do the things consistently that allows you to find the business. So reality is, you guys can make more money doing less deals. Or the income drops quicker because the average sales price is higher. So if you do less deals, you're just going to feel a little bit more. Okay. All right, next slide. Nobody's going to be surprised. Listing inventory is down. Shocking. I think I'm seeing a lot of things on some of our internal Facebook pages with regards to Aaron Skokwist is really good at saying, how was your weekend? And you'll see a lot of people saying, hey, I had great activity, or I had multiple offers, or my buyers won an offer on, won a property on 14 offers. The reality of that situation is until we get more inventory, that's not changing. That's one of the most profound statements you guys will hear on this call. Duh, right? It's very obvious. But our listing inventory is the biggest challenge that a lot of buyers are going to face at this point. Okay. Next one. This also speaks to a couple of different things. It speaks to affordability. They're taking on he gave a number in between $200 and $300 a month that a lot of people with student debt have. That's $200 or $300 that makes it more difficult to purchase a home, particularly when prices have appreciated as much as they have. So there's this tug of war where they're having to wait a little bit longer in order to be able to purchase. So it's just something I don't know if you do anything with this in particularly, but I do think from an economic perspective, when you're sitting down with clients, to be aware of why some of that shows up, this is one of the reasons. It's the debt that they currently have. Caleb, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I listened to the live stream, and I didn't hear Gary talk about it then, but I'm wondering, did he at any other time mention the kind of back and forth with the student debt relief, forgiveness, whatever you want to call it, that's going back on and on?
He didn't reference it. Not that I was aware of. If anybody else heard anything, I didn't hear anything on that. I think it's probably a little bit too obtuse or ambiguous at this point to make any definitive statements on what has or.
I just asked as my sister's in a situation where she has student debt, and when it goes on pause, she sees her credit score go up because she's not making that payment. When it goes on pause, it goes down. So she's even seeing it fluctuate over just the course of last year. And so I think for buyers who might be in that situation, that also impacts what they can qualify for.
100%. Great. That's a really good point, Caleb. 100%. Great point. All right. Jen, I'm going to lean a little bit on this one with you, but basically, if I can, I'm going to articulate it a little bit. Jen McFadgen is going to help a little bit with this too, and Jen, whoever was there, if you have additional context. But this is a lot of numbers to look at. But the basic premise of this is, if you took the money that, so if you purchased a property, if you took the difference of renting versus buying, and you invested it, the middle row there is based on average returns for the investment. You can see people, Ben, this kind of goes to your point. If we're going to start connecting dots, provide logical data to our clients to help them make good decisions for their long-term wealth. And this one basically says, okay, I'm going to take the difference. I'm going to save a little bit because my rent payment is going to be a little less and I don't have to purchase with a higher payment. And I'm going to invest that same amount into a variety and to diversify that investment. What you can see is the first 3 years on this, you're actually upside down. It actually makes more sense for the first 3 years. And this is where you allow time to do the work for you, because after that, it exponentially starts to grow with regards to the appreciation and the mortgage, like essentially the mortgage pay down, the equity you gain over time. It's not even close. 11 years based on this is more than double owning versus renting. So if we can help people, and if they choose to rent and want to invest, awesome, good for them. But allow them to make the decision on accurate data versus arbitrarily on what they think could happen. Jen, did I miss anything on that?
I would say the big thing, you guys, is just asking your buyers what their goals are and how long they think they're going to stay in the home, right? And so this slide last year was the exact same, but had different numbers because of the affordability. So like Jake said, year 3 is when you're really breaking even. And when you start making equity on your home purchase, you're going to see it through years 4 through 11. And so if you look at the bottom of owning, you're making over $200,000 if you own a home just naturally by borrowing that cash. If someone's looking for those short wealth building tactics and thinks real estate's the way to go, it might make more sense for them to actually rent. And so that's what Jake hit on in that middle column, is saying, okay, if you do decide to rent and you take the difference between purchasing and renting and you take that full amount and invest it, you're going to make some money on it. Over the course of the 11 years, you're only going to hit $106,000 versus owning a home for 11 years, you would be able to make $234,000. The third column, just for reference for you guys, most people that are renting are not going to take the full difference between owning and renting and invest it. So what Gary did was say, okay, if people decide to rent and then take 10% of their savings and invest that 10%, what would that equate to? So I think the biggest 2 columns, if you guys take this slide and share it with buyers, it's really taking column 1 and column 3 and saying, okay, based off of the equity that you can have over the course of a decade, here's the difference. If you plan on moving and only owning for a short amount of time, it might make more sense to just rent and invest some of that money or all of that money. But if you do decide to live in a home for any time over 3 years, the smarter decision is going to be owning.
Jen, I think you hit on a very valid point. Understanding the client's needs, desires, situations, future plans should heavily predicate how you advise or what you advise them to do. And I I don't know why we wouldn't take the mortgage slide, this slide, a handful of the slides. I don't know why we wouldn't use them to show clients. I really don't. Because is what typically tends to happen is it turns into a sales pitch because we don't have any data. Stop sales pitching people into trying to make a decision you want them to make, please. Use data to help advise them appropriately. And I tell you, the amount of return you get on doing business that way is pretty special over the long term. When you advise, imagine telling somebody, if you're going to do this, if you're planning on moving in 3 or 4 years, don't buy. Imagine telling them that. Or if you are going to buy, just understand we don't know what this is going to look like. So there could be some risk, but if you're comfortable with that risk, great. Imagine what that does to the relationship. Okay. All right. Next slide. First-time home buyers. I don't think it's a shock that 26% of the home purchases were first-time home buyers, simply because of all the other slides we've already went through. You've got affordability, you've got student loan debt, you've got factors that are playing into, you got appreciation, you got all these factors that are playing into a challenge to afford the monthly payment. So just take note of that. And if you look at the 47 and 50% for those that weren't in the business, end of 2008, the government issued first-time homebuyer tax credits. So they artificially inflated that number to try and re-stimulate the economy. I still think it was the right decision. I think it helped a lot of people get into homes. It created some challenges as well, but the reality is they got a lot of inventory, vacant homes that were sitting on the market for a long time. It got a lot of those properties, families into them. So that's why those numbers seem so kind of out of whack compared to everything else. But essentially, think about the first-time homebuyer market is going to be our bottleneck into everything else, because everybody has to sell a house to move up. So if we don't have enough first-time home buyers, the challenge is we just don't have enough listings. But if we don't have enough first-time home buyers, we don't allow everybody else that's looking to move. So there's going to be a moment in time where this just comes to a head, where either prices have to come down, or there needs to be other structures in place for people to be able to afford homes. Okay. All right. Lots of data on here. Again, some of this stuff is not shocking, but primary reasons. Basically, the only thing that I would prefer or suggest you use this slide for is to understand what are the most common reasons people choose to buy, because it helps you articulate how to go find business or who to try to appeal to. If I look at social media across the board, the number one thing that our industry does is we post about interest rates, and that's why somebody should buy. There's a benefit of, or there's a reason that could work, but the reality is the interest rates are not the main driver. People financially, that's not the reason why most people make the decision. It's typically a life event. It's getting married, it's having kids, it's retiring, it's becoming an empty nester. It's all of those things. A financial component plays into it, but we treat it as the main motivational driver for people, and it's just not. It's not the main reason. So understand why people are purchasing homes. Okay. Tenure in previous homes. I kind of looked at the 6 to 7 year range and then worked it backwards. The actual 7 years or less, the cumulative numbers there is 39% of people that are in their home for less than 7 years. So Bethany, if you go to the next slide, this is or was that the actual? That was the actual tenure. This is the expected tenure. So the expected is 7 years or less is 25%, which tells you what?
People think they're going to live in homes longer than they actually do, which tells
Right.
us that we need to be in more communication with our people to catch them when they're actually needing to buy or sell versus assuming they're going to really wait 7 years.
Correct. Then, yeah, thank you, Jen. It's so much more critical for us to be in relationship with them the whole time because they think they're going to stay longer than they actually do. So
Could you go back to the actual one, please? Okay, thank you.
So again, I took the 7 or kind of essentially 7 or less. And it was 39% of expected time in the home and 25% that actually stayed less than that time frame. Okay. All right. There's only one thing to take from this slide. You're not first, you're last. It's obviously, if you're not number one and essentially number two, you have a very low percentage chance of getting the business. So again, this goes back to Jen's point of the necessity and importance of being in relationship and dialogue with people.
I think the other side of that same coin is you should be really encouraged. If you get to that kitchen table with them, 80% of people only interview one person. So get to the table. That's what I'm going to talk about in a second. But if you get there, you've got a good shot at getting that business.
Absolutely. All right. Nice work. So don't blow it. You got it right, Gordon. Make sure bring these slides with it. It's impossible to blow it if you have worthwhile information to share with them. Buyer interviews, it's a little bit less. I think it's because of the ambiguity with people being a little bit more free flowing on the buy side, and people not getting exclusive representation contracts. Gary did have a slide on that. The amount of people that actually have people. It was like in the 30 percentile range. It's like 30% of people are actually getting buyer rep contracts signed. So protect yourself a little bit and bring the best representation by getting buyer rep signed. Make sure that you're the person that they want to work with. Okay. Again, how sellers found their agent, not shocking, referred. They used them in the past. Those top two make up 63%. Again, goes back to the relationship and being in dialogue with people. It's not complicated. It's just this is a barometer of where to spend your time and energy. Okay. How buyers, again, not shocking, referral, used previous agent. Notice the difference between used previous agent. So if you go to the previous one, 27%, then you go to the buyer, it's 12%. It's interesting.
I'd say one caveat, you guys, if you're not already doing a 36 touch or a 70 touch or whatever touch, this is huge to just remind you guys the importance of that. So once you help somebody, make sure that you're touching base with them at least on a monthly basis, if not more frequently.
100%. 70 touch. Gene's got it. Most important factors for sellers. This was interesting to me. Reputation, honest, trustworthy friend or family member, which honestly, I think I would lump, well, not always, but friend or family member was likely honest and trustworthy. Not in all scenarios, but you would imagine those would go together. Notice what's down to 4%. Commission. They care about it, but understand they care about other things just as much, if not more. And it's, the reliability of the agent to get them to actually what they want and the reputation of that agent. So take notice. And if I can extend one piece to this, and I had some conversations with people, we've got to be professional with the people that are on the other side with regards to the agent. Understand your reputation with other agents either helps or hinders your clients over time. So if you're really tough to work with, your clients already might be at a disadvantage. I'll just let that sit. So we can be professional and respectful. We don't have to lash out. We've got to be able to work with others well to actually be the best that we can for our clients. Okay. And last slide, this is basically just saying, would would clients use you as an agent again? And if you take the first two, it's essentially, what is that, 90 or 85%? The interesting thing is that that number is 85%. And when you look at those other slides, it was 27% for sellers and 12% for buyers. So I honestly think it's a matter of us staying in communication and being relevant with our past clients more so than anything else. So thoughts, questions? Jen has some things that she's going to dive into as well, that you can kind of take this stuff and move it into another component with your business strategies.
I'm wondering if there was any conversation around sellers who own their home at a 3% interest rate, unwilling to list and then buy at a higher rate. You know, that move up market sort of sitting pretty stale.
It's the reality of the situation. There wasn't a lot of conversation around it. They obviously, you go back to life changes are typically going to be the drivers. People aren't just going to do it just to move down the street. And so that's just something where we just need to bring more data. The reality is some people are going to stay probably longer because of that rate.
Yeah, the lead economist did talk about that in this conversation. And then it kind of comes down to shift tactic, whatever it is, finding the motivated. It's like that's why people are going to move now. It's finding the motivated and or investors that understand the long-term gain. So Jake, I'm gonna fly through what I have. Is anything else on those economic slides? Questions, thoughts for those of you that were there? Anything else you'd add to that?
I want to chime in. I just think one thing on one of the sessions I sat in on with Gene Rivers talked about those 2021 numbers to 2022 and those referrals from family or friends or using that agent again. There's space for us to ask for the business or to regain some of that share. You saw some of that move to a website or other places where people found their agent. And Gene actually pointed out as a loss to the agents and was disappointed in everyone in that standpoint. And so remember to ask for referrals from your clients who've had great experiences and look to regain some of that percentage back.
That's perfect. That's a perfect lead in. Actually, I'm gonna cruise through this in about 5 minutes. For those of you that are able to stay on past 12 o'clock and those that were at family reunion, if we want to take a few more minutes after this to dive into some more ahas, I think it'd be time well spent. So this is coming from Jason Abrams. So he said there are only two strategies when it comes to building a real estate business. One is I have all the leads I need in my database. So if that's you, you're good to go. And we'll talk about that in a second. There are really only two strategies. I have all the leads I need and they're in my database. The second strategy or way to look at your business is I don't have all the leads I need. So I need to meet more people and get more referrals from the people I know. It's pretty simple. Bethany, we'll go to the next slide. You guys have heard this. We're going to keep sharing this with you. So you can see if you have 201 contacts in your database, we happen to just have the data on command. And you can kind of flesh out to where it is. It's right past that 201 mark. It's an average $174,000 in GCI that an agent makes. So I think what this graph is missing is we can have, and Jen inferred this too, we can have the people in our database, but if they're just sitting in the database, do they do any good? No, like we need to communicate to them effectively and consistently. So Bethany, if you want to move to the next one. We look at the top, you can go back to the funnel. That's fine. Yeah, the funnel. There we go. Jason was talking about, what do you want more of? Do you want more leads? A lead goes to a warm connection goes to appointment goes to contract goes to close. Ultimately, what do you all want more of?
Closings.
Closings, dollar in your bank account. So the question is, A, Do we know the conversion ratio between each one of those steps? How many leads do we need in order to get them to a warm connection where we're in relationship with them? How many of those do we need in order to get to the appointment, to get to the kitchen table? How many kitchen tables do we need to get a contract, and how many contracts do we need to get a closing? So they talked throughout the whole family reunion of knowing the math in your new model. We're in a new market. The conversion ratios for every agent, no matter how long they've been in the business or how skilled they are, have changed from each of those steps. So that's part one, is really understanding how many leads do I need to get. We're going back to the basic strategy of I either have enough leads in my database or I don't. If I don't, I need to figure out how to get more in there. And then I need to figure out how to communicate to them consistently. So Bethany, we'll go to the next couple here. So how do we move them all the way to closing? So now Jason harped on this over and over and over. And he did it pretty effectively in about 5 minutes. He said, compensation is something you get for something you give. And he said specifically, it's something you give that's needed and useful. So the distance between lead and closing on that funnel is in direct relation to the amount of things that you're giving to your clients that are needed and useful. And he used the example, I'm going to maybe hurt some feelings here. He said, if your clients don't need a $9 Costco pie, you might not be providing enough value to them. So really looking at what is that value? What are all of the things that you're setting to your customers right now that are needed and useful? For some of them, it might be this data, especially if they're a high C, high I, right? They're looking for data that's needed, that's useful. For some of them, it might be, maybe they do need a pie or a pizza cutter. We want to really look at that 36 touch that Jen talked about is part 2. You get people in the database, and then we put a plan together to communicate to them. First of all, something is better than nothing. So you just got to get something in place. Then and your market centers have 36 touches. They're in command. There's smart plans there. So they're already built out. You can hit the go button and they're on it. Then that's done. From there, it's looking at it and being able to just level up, even if it's just one touch at a time. Is this needed to them? Is this useful to them? Is this needed? Is this useful? How can I provide them things that are needed and useful? And he said, that's why 87% of people say that you guys, I don't even know if we had that chart in here. They did a survey. 87% of people say that they would use their realtor a second time. Only 27% of sellers do, and only 12% of buyers do. That's in direct relation to how many times you're communicating to them with things that are needed and useful. It is not easy, but it is that simple. And so we're going to be harping on, I know a lot of this is sort of the back to the basic stuff, but that's what it is. So if we don't have the people in the database, if we're not communicating to them consistently with needed and useful items, do not collect go. You do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like, this is it. Come back to this and clean it up and then level up. The last thing he said that I thought was interesting, he said, a shift only happens when you change your mindset or the action that you take. That's the only real shift. Everything else is just interest rates. I was like, oh, okay. That's all I got.
Simple. Well,
Yep.
and I think something very important for us to determine and get real with ourselves on is, guys, just being responsive and being nice to people is not a value proposition. It's not. That's expected, but it's not a value proposition. So if you're not taking some of this data where you're actually the economist that can actually help them make a good decision. Like, if my financial planner was just nice to me and he didn't give me any guidance, I wouldn't use my financial planner. Same thing with an accountant. Like, there needs to be a strategy. I don't need somebody just to do my taxes. I need them to say, go do this so you can save money on paying taxes. And I think we've gotten into this place where it's unfortunate that the business has been so strong that it's trained us to just be receivers versus actually bringing, and there's people on here that do this very, very well, but bringing significant value with regards to knowledge and advice based on data, not based on I need a transaction. And I know that sounds harsh, you guys, but I want to rattle the brain a little bit, because being nice and liked is not enough when the market shifts.
And in the main section, oh, go ahead, Katie.
Oh, this is Katie. I just, with what you said, Jen, and then to follow Jake, you also said, Lori Reeder, when she was talking, she made a comment and she said that the shortage is the time spent on your business. It's not a shortage of leads. And so doing the right things, communicating all of the right data and information is what needs to happen right now more than ever. And people that are blaming it on leads, they're not going to take that market share.
Randy, to your Bethany did post those in the chat. All the slides are, and that this is only 30 of them. It's not the full, I think 85 of them or 90 of them. So just know that when you download them, you're going to get additional slides that are there. So thank you, Bethany. Any ahas from anybody that was there?
Yeah, let's open it up for those of you that were there. Yeah.
Brent,
Yeah,
go
don't
ahead.
use the slides from Canada accidentally. That would be bad.
There are slides from Canada as well.
Sure.
And they calculate affordability differently. They take it the
Very
full
differently.
expense load. Yeah.
You guys, one thing that I kind of not necessarily took away, but am applying is making sure that I'm looking at my conversion rates every quarter, as well as my team's conversion rates every quarter to make sure that we're adjusting. So something that they were saying over and over and over is double down on your activities. It might take a handful more of activities to generate that lead, but if you stick to your top 4 or even your top 3 that typically generate 80% of your business, stick to them and then really wrap your head around your conversion so that you can stay on top of what metrics you have to hit throughout the year.
Perfectly well said, Jen. We've also started to see this interesting trend of when everything is really great. Gary talked about a 7-year itch. Essentially, it doesn't matter where you are or what company you're at. We as humans get bored after 7 years. So we start to look for other things. We start to look for different, strategies or bells and whistles or different companies. We're actually starting to see, I mean, I posted a couple of them. Katie brought up Lori, who does over 3,000 transactions. Ken Pozick came back from another brokerage. They're starting to see the sheer value of coaching, accountability, models and systems, strategic ways to actually generate business that keeps you consistent enough. So everything that we do, we're bringing it forward in a way that hopefully you guys are able to develop yourselves so your business grows. If you're looking to do it backwards, if you're looking for your business to grow before you're willing to grow, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. Your business will not show up any differently if you consistently show up the same way. And you don't make pivots, you don't make adjustments, you don't do the activities. So that was a little preachy. Sorry about that. But I love you guys, so it all works. And that made Eric uncomfortable. That's all right.
I just thought it was debatable that you actually loved us.
Wow, that hurts.
Well, you're cold, but that's all good.
What else from those that were there? Any other ahas? I know you guys that were there. I mean, I felt like it was the best family reunion I've ever been to out of family and mega camp. Was there any other discoveries, takeaways?
The overall message I got from, like, it's so humbling listening to these agents who are running just day in and day out, like really incredible businesses. And all of them would get up and say, there's nothing really special to me. To preach what Jake just said, I just do the same thing and I become predictable and my clients know what to expect from me. And I teach my clients, or I coach my clients how to give me more business, or it's all the same things that we always hear. And I think it was just a good reminder that no, there's no secret sauce, or there's nothing, gonna fall out of the sky. Like, everything to run a great business is in the MREA, or it's what we already talk about at KW. And so I think that was a good reminder for me.
Well said, Paige.
One thing I'll bring up that I heard is we talking about in the sense of clients and buying and investing in real estate, and it was real estate isn't a get rich quick, it's get wealthy for sure. And that speaks to kind of consistency. And when we look at working with our clients, it's not going to be get rich quick, like you're saying, Paige, but it's get wealthy for sure if we're able to be consistent and doing the right things day over day.
Love that, John. Eric.
Yeah. One thing I thought was, I don't want to say mind blowing, or just such a great twist on everything is you know, as so many teams on this, I think we all claim to have standards. I also think all of those standards are bullshit, to be quite honest, because when the pedal, you know, actually gets put to the ground, no one will actually uphold them for fear of losing a good person or somebody that they care about. So I was in a class with Adam Hergenrother, and he said at Livian, they don't have standards. They have what they call the 4 agreements. The 4 agreements are show up for everything. Number 2 appointments a week. You're doing everything that you can to get 2 appointments a week. If it's a buyer and seller, it can't, like, you can meet one person, it's 2 appointments, right? Report numbers 5 out of 7 days, and they only report 4 is something signed, sold, appointment, or added to database, and 5 added contacts to the database every week. And they say those 4 agreements are their North Star for production. They're not dealing with standards. And, you know, I mean, I think the deal with all of us, with especially with teams, is, well, our standard is this. Well, we have somebody that falls out of the standard, and we're either too afraid to cut them, or too, you know, curious to, you know, and we don't want to cut people. I haven't met anybody or hired anybody that I wanted to cut. You know what I mean? So gaining that agreement from the start, I think, was a great way of looking at it.
Eric, can you?
Eric, why would I want to do that? That's so boring, though. It's just boring. Why would I want to do that? I want to go buy something different or get something fancy. I don't want to do boring.
Yeah, you're welcome to go do boring on your own, or you're welcome to go do that on your own. I think that what I've found, I think we've all found, right, is just like John said, the consistently boring stuff is what gets you from A to B and creates predictability. Yeah, sorry. So the 4 agreements were show up for everything, hold 2 appointments a week. And he said that was their North Star for their vision. Because from there, it really is math. 2 appointments a week, 48 working weeks in a year is 96 appointments, and an 80% conversion ratio, or at a 70% conversion ratio, then 80% contract to close, and then 90% close works out to 45 closings a year. So 2 appointments, report numbers 5 out of the 7 days a week, and then add 5 contacts to your database every week.
Thanks for sharing that, Eric. The grass is greener wherever you water it. So you can look for any options you want.
We always talk about real estate's a relationship business, and, you know, you build your business how you build your business, and whether it's cold calling or door knocking or sphere of influence, it's all about relationships. And I think the best thing about these sorts of events, family reunion, mega camp, even the one-day events we have the opportunity to go to, is the relationships that you build with the people around you. Just hearing Eric and I have done, I think, 1 deal together, sort of, but we've been in each other's lives for a long time through social media and stuff. Every time I'm around him, I feel energized. He's always pleasant to me, and he's always there to help if I ever have a question. I've done this for a really long time, and the last 3 years, I've really had a crisis of confidence and quality, honestly. And I felt like I had a good year last year, but I do not know how I had a good year last year, because I don't feel like I worked very hard. I came through this. I also joined a group that's just a Facebook group that I don't know how the guys found me, but it's single agents who do 15 to 50 transactions a year. So it's very targeted toward people who do not necessarily want to build a team, which I've always sort of felt we got lost in the mix. I didn't ever want to be, the head of a team of 20 people for whatever reason. But the nice thing is I feel like I'm really finding my people. And I'm also being brought along with people like Eric who are natural coaches, and whether they're my coach or not. And just the relationships that I think I really expanded while I was there, that can't be minimized. Like, the classes were great, the speakers were awesome, I learned a ton, but the people I connected with was the difference maker here, more than anything for me. And this is my 30th year in the business. Like, I've done this, I'm really old. And I grew up in the business. I'm second generation. Connie Lowry and my dad have been friends since I don't know, I think they both drove stone-wheeled cars. But, you know, but you learn something new, and you learn from people who've done it for a month, because they do it their way. So I just can't say enough about going to this stuff. We really need to encourage our colleagues to go.
Thanks, Brent. There's a sign up for Mega Camp. Somebody just talked about it. It's open, you guys. So Mega Agent Camp is coming up in August, and the last Mega Agent Camp we heard have been the best. They're hearing feedback and they're adjusting things. Appreciate that, Brent.
Brent, I don't know the Eric, you know, that's not the guy I know. It's kind of a downer, but I know we're way past our time. We appreciate that, but I want to let you know, guys, we're building something special here. I don't care what every other brokerage is saying. I know we're building something special, and I feel more engaged with this company, and transparently, I was contemplating whether I bring this up. Like the past 3 years, I love the company, but there were some challenges that we kept running into that in all transparency, like, what the hell's going on? I never have lost belief in Gary. The guy is the visionary. I can unequivocally say at this point in time, we feel like the KW we used to be for 4, 5, 6 years ago. And that's not a sales pitch to the people that are on here. It's the reality of what the experience was down there, and the confidence that we have moving forward, and the people that are now coming back to join the company that had left. So I'm a company guy, but I'm not a company guy. I like to push back. I'm a company guy right now. I don't care what anybody feels about that. We are moving ahead, and we're building something special. Jason.
To that point, Jake, I just wanted to add the updates that are already available and that are coming around the KW Tech Suite in Command are absolutely amazing. This is the most excited I've been about what's rolling out in the next couple of months that I've ever been in this role. So obviously we're not talking about that right now, but in the next couple of days, I'm going to put together a video of everything that we now have and everything that we'll have as far as availability in the coming months. And I'll make sure that gets to everyone's respective leadership teams.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jason.
that, Jason. Thank you. Anybody else? This format worked okay, I think, huh?
That worked out, yeah.
Where I'm looking right now, it's still not snowing, which I'm kind of pissed
it's
about.
kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that I think your team leaders and other leadership members that went to family reunion are going to have for you. I mean, we could hardly scratch the surface in this period of time. So be in connection with them and those that went. There's a lot of really applicable content that you guys can apply to your businesses right away, and link arms with people, show up to your offices. Like what Brent was saying, you can succeed wildly in a very simple manner just by showing up.
No question. Absolutely. I hope this doesn't fall flat, but I do appreciate each and every one of you. Some of you I get to see more often than others. And at the same time, this business is about people, and like our commitment is to develop ourselves and everybody around us. So I appreciate you being on here and plugging in and participating in the conversation. So let's go kick some ass, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.